Hello, welcome everyone to PopCultX episode 47. As always, Danny and Gabe are here to talk about pop culture from a Gen X point of view. So let's go ahead and jump into it, Danny. Right now, I know, sadly, the world is really focused on what's going on in the Ukraine, and we did want to discuss that. But before we jump into that and how we as citizens of the world can help support the people of Ukraine, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how pop culture can help people who are in stress or are grieving or in a state of mental anguish, and how it can alleviate some of that. For me, I definitely turn to music, television, etc., to kind of help me deal with things that are going on in the world. And so I pose that question to you: is there a particular show, music, movie that you like to watch, listen to, that's kind of helping you with everything that's going on in the world right now?
Well, I tend to gravitate towards music as my comfort for the soul, I guess you would say. Yeah. And I've been really on repeat playing Nirvana Unplugged in New York. And that's just been going on. I've just had that on repeat because every single song really, it has a Kurt Cobain's voice has a very, what's the right tone to it? It has a specific tone that really just speaks to me in a time where, everything out there might be just ghastly and just terrible, but I could just find comfort in the way he sings and performs all of those songs on that live album. And that's why I think it's the greatest live album ever. It's because I can turn to it anytime I need a comfort or just need to escape reality and just lose myself in my headphones and just listen to something. Now, there are some TV shows and some movies that provide similar comfort, but for me, the majority of the time, it's going to be music.
Yeah. Well, and that album and Nirvana as a group, or Kurt Cobain as an individual, I think is a touchstone for people in our generation. He is deservedly has been titled as the voice of our generation. He spoke for Gen X. He is a symbol, an icon of that generation and of that era. And so it makes sense that you would go back to something that was in your youth that you've listened to time and time again, and brings you comfort. For me, music is definitely one of those things. But I found myself this weekend kind of just going onto YouTube and watching videos that make me laugh. Nothing like specific as far as like any content creators, but just like going in and they'll have videos titled like "You won't be able to not laugh by the end of this video," or funny cats with funny dogs, and it's like it's so simplistic. It's so just kind of speaks to humor that is like universal, like a dog doing something silly, and it just kind of makes me not worry about a lot of things for at least 3 minutes, 4 minutes as I watch it. I love dogs. I love animals. And so it's something that makes me feel good. It just makes me laugh.
It's the whole just mindlessness of it, right? You don't have to think about it. You just have to enjoy and react to it. You don't have to overthink something, or you don't have to like contemplate, what does that mean? Some Christopher Nolan movie or something like that. You just can just watch it and just like laugh at it, because laughter is the best medicine, as they say.
Yeah. And I know studies have come out saying that like the act of like just petting your dog or petting your animal, it helps relieve stress for you. In the long run, helps lengthen your life. And so, I have my dogs, typically one is on my lap and I'm sort of petting her and playing with her and then watching the video. So it is very therapeutic. She's not my, assisted animal or, anything like that.
Emotional support animal.
Yeah, she definitely supports me in a way, and other dogs that I've had, they know and they can sense when like something is sort of troubling me, and she just knows when to snuggle with me at the right moment. So, in conjunction with my little puppy, so that kind of helps me feel better. I know that right now it's just the one thing that really kind of makes me feel a little bit better about what's happening in the world is that the world does seem very united in support of the people of Ukraine. Outside of Putin, it's very hard to find anyone else that's like, yes, this is a great thing that's happening. So that kind of makes me a little bit happy that it is still a sort of David versus Goliath story, Russia having all the resources, military, weapons, and Ukraine being, the opposite of that and not having the same resources. So, but at least one can sort of take solace in the fact that the rest of the world is like there supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in, like in the way that like maybe we could fully be, but at least there isn't dialogue or debate over or not who's in the right or who's in the wrong.
Yeah,
I think we're all on the same page at this point.
That is true. And the world Putin in a week has seemingly done what couldn't have been done the past few years, which is unite Europe and unite the United States and really strengthen the allyship, I guess, between all the nations there against him. So I don't think that was his intention, of course not, but that's what he did. And I've been struggling personally, really, with finding a way to rationalize how can I be happy when all those people are suffering.
Right.
So, and that's something that I've been talking with a lot of people here about, and talking just what gives me the right to enjoy making some cookies or something when someone else has to pick up their bags and leave because of missiles coming right to their house.
Right.
And it's just something that I've been struggling with. And like you said, the bright spot is seeing the world come together and lift up and support the Ukrainians and let them know that in our own little way that we're there for them, whether it be, just retweeting links to nonprofits that are assisting the refugees, or even like Saturday Night Live got in on it, and they had the Ukrainian, the Ukrainian choir of Ukrainian Chorus Dumka of New York, and they sang the Prayer for Ukraine as their cold opener last weekend. And there was a bunch of sunflowers around, which of course sunflowers are the national flower of Ukraine. And it was just a beautiful moment that SNL was able to carve out and use their platform to lift up as best they could to show their support for the Ukrainian people. Yeah.
Well, and I think it goes to something that you said earlier, is that, laughter is, medicine, mm-hmm. the best medicine for times like this. And through history, it's been shown that even during the darkest times, humans have the ability to overcome, what seems as insurmountable, obstacles, and have used humor, have used, their heart. They've maintained their humanity and not succumb to all of that darkness and, mm-hmm. and evil in the world. And so it is hard. It is definitely, I think 500,000 people have fled Ukraine as of today. So. And so, how do we come on this podcast, for example, and talk mm-hmm. about pop culture when, everyone needs to be educated about what's going on and trying to help out. And so you find ways. I mean, I think, this, our conversation helps me feel better, being able to share our common experiences and perspective on something like pop culture. And so it's little things like that. It's little things like being able to bond with your family or share acts of kindness with strangers, or, coworkers, or, really finding any kind of moment that you can to try to brighten that person's day, even though
that's true.
It mm-hmm. It may seem, like, oh, why even try? Because there's so much pain in the world.
Right.
But it's the momentum that you can build in the universe, like by just putting your positivity in the universe, and then it sort of escalates and reverberates throughout everywhere. And so, here we are talking about pop culture today. You shared about Saturday Night Live and how the choir performed. And I think music and song is something that is really is a way to restore humans' spirits, mm-hmm. Being able to express that as a singer, as an artist, and then as the listener, being able to be part of that exchange, I think is something that's very powerful. And
that's true.
I definitely turn to music in order to relax and to escape reality. So I'm right there with everyone else when it comes to music. But um, outside of that, we didn't really want to spend a lot of time dedicated to hot topics this week outside of what's going on in the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we still do want to hear from our listeners when it comes to maybe what they're doing right now to
Yes.
help support people in Ukraine and what they're doing to help themselves get through kind of these dark times. So maybe make a comment on our YouTube channel on this post, sharing with us how you get through the dark times.
Yeah, that's a
And I
great
think it'll be
question.
really helpful for everyone that kind of is able to see it and say, maybe I'm having difficulty today dealing with that. And let me look at a recommendation that someone else has made that helps them get through the day and try it out. And maybe you will be able to impact someone else's life by suggesting something that could really brighten their day.
I think that's an excellent point. And if everyone out there could do that, that'd be fantastic. I mean, share, like you said, Gabe, share with us and with the rest of our PopCultX community what you do. Let us know and and how it affects you and how you use that to help brighten your day. And I think you said something that really hit. And it's even though what we do may seem like a speck of sand in the ocean,
Mhm.
but for that speck of sand, it could mean everything. So even if it doesn't feel huge, like maybe you're helping someone across the street who's struggling with groceries or something, or holding the door open for someone, it might not seem like a big deal, but putting that positivity out there is at minimum what we can do to help
Yeah.
better the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, very that. So at this time, I think that what we would like to do is share with our listeners some ways that you can help.
mhm.
And I think, Danny, you had some
Yes,
information for
I
our listeners.
I found one, and this was what really caught my eye was when I saw that Brian Reynolds and his wife Blake Lively were matching donations up to $1 million on the UNHCR, which is the UN Refugee Agency, and that goes to help people who have to flee their home, and it helps them with shelter, food, water, medicine, stuff that they just had to leave behind. So it helps provide that um, aid to them. And I'll link it down in the description below, but it's give.unrefugees.org, I guess is the main site. And then you can go find there and find to help out with the Ukraine refugees, because like you said, over 500,000 people have already had to flee their home, to flee the violence. And I think even if you can't give, if you're strapped for cash or you're just not in a position to give, at least share it out on your social media platform. Maybe take a break from your posting of other things, of maybe your trip to the beach or trip to whatever, and post a link to this aid agency, and just use this time and use your own platform to help spread the good works that they're doing there to help all the refugees who, by no fault of their own, other than living in a country where they're being invaded, have to take flight to save their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that's a great resource. Thank you for sharing that. All of our listeners out there, please go check it out. If you can, donate what you can. Before we go, I do want to say another thing that was kind of helped me react or deal with what's going on is that
Mm-hmm.
I did see that a lot of Russian people are protesting with
Mm-hmm.
what's going on
Yes.
and want this war, and which is really brave because they're literally speaking out against Putin, and a lot of them are getting arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Russia is not the place that you want to speak
Right.
against Putin, and you don't want to be protested, and so they're literally risking their lives to express um, how this is not a good decision and this is not the action that they should be taking as a country. And so I just want to remind people that even though it's the country of Russia and it's Russia's Putin is representative of Russia, it's it's not all the people
Right.
there.
Don't go take it out on the 50-year-old grandma serving you some Russian food in a restaurant, because she doesn't
Right.
have to do with what Putin's doing right there. Right.
Right. There are very, there are good people there that are doing what they can to try to vocalize, the Russian community's dissent when it comes to Putin. So, that was another thing that I think is a little bit of hope, a glimmer of hope in this.
Yeah.
Is that even the Russian people themselves are saying like, no, this is not the right way. So
right. And another thing I saw real quick is the people of Ukraine. And now I want to give them a major shout out, not shout out, but a major lift up, because they haven't lost their humanity in all this. I saw a report that I guess the Ukrainian military captured some Russian troops, and they allowed those Russian troops to phone call back to their parents back in Russia to let them know they were alive but captured. And the Russian troops expressed disbelief with that because they couldn't believe that they allowed them to do that. And I think also the Ukrainian government set up a hotline for Russian families to call in to see what's going on with their kid, their soldier or whatnot. And that's I hadn't heard of anything like that before, especially when it comes to a wartime effort. And for Ukrainian people to have that humanity and realize that it's not those soldiers' fault. They're just following orders, although sometimes blindly. It's not their fault. It's the man in charge who has this issue problem that needs to be removed from being in charge. But it's good to see that they're doing that. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to make this about us or the United States or our leadership, but to see that the president of the Ukraine is staying there with his family and quite literally risking his life to show solidarity with the people. And it speaks volumes to his leadership ability and his loyalty to the people of his country. And, I don't know if our, current former presidents would show that same sort of integrity and that sort of strength. So it really is showing, their strength, and I hate to, try to be trivial about it and say, he's doing a great job, but just what a strong person he is.
Yeah, definitely. Brave and strong. And fun fact that I read is that he was the voice of in the Ukrainian version of the movie Paddington. He played Paddington the bear. So fun fact.
Yeah, he's a former comedian, right?
Yeah,
comedian.
Author. I think he's a family man. I think he also has a law degree, if I remember read correctly. And so, kudos to him.
His family he's Jewish, and he has family that
passed away in the Holocaust.
Yeah, that were victims of the Holocaust. So, he's no stranger to the horrors of war, horrors of madmen and tyranny. And, hopefully this gives us some perspective of, as Americans, when we're arguing about the tyrannical U.S. government forcing us to wear masks or get vaccinations. And the people of the Ukraine are actually battling tyranny right now.
Right. Exactly.
And so, and they're bearing arms not to fight their own government, and they're not, storming their capital. They're protecting their borders for their own freedom. And so it really should give us some perspective on what's going on here. And, maybe it can change some people's perspective about what they're complaining about and what they're fighting against.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So thank you everyone for joining us. I know this was a little bit more somber than maybe what you're used to with Danny and I and with PopCultX, but I think it was important for us to take a moment to show our support and to do what little we can with our small little podcast. So that's all this week. We'll be back next week with, hopefully something a little bit more uplifting and, maybe more cheerful and funny and all of that to look forward to. So until then, please do what you can to help Ukraine and stay safe. And anything else you have to say before we head out, Danny?
Nope. Stay safe out there, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.